Welcome to Factual America, where we dive deep into the headlines, challenge prevailing narratives, and reveal the untold truths shaping our nation. Today, we're exposing one of the hottest debates in Washington, the push to pack the Supreme Court. You've heard the headlines, but have you ever wondered what's really behind the calls to enlarge our highest court? Trust me, it's not just about fairness. Let's unravel what's at stake, who stands to gain, and why the push for a bigger bench is more dangerous than you've been told. The Supreme Court is supposed to be the final word on our Constitution, the fearless referee who calls strikes and balls with impartiality. But now, powerful interests want to turn those 9 justices into a political football. The left claims it's about restoring balance and democracy. But peeling back the curtain, we see a different story, a calculated power grab that could turn our judiciary into a partisan tool, erasing generations of constitutional tradition. Why would anyone risk the legitimacy of the court or undermine the checks and balances that have safeguarded our republic? Let's find out. To understand the current buzz around Supreme Court packing, we have to look back at history, specifically 1937. President Franklin D. Roosevelt, frustrated by the court striking down parts of his New Deal, proposed adding more justices to ease the workload. Americans saw right through it. It was an effort to tip the court in his favor. Both parties balked at the idea, seeing it as an existential threat to our separation of powers. Fast forward to today. Progressives, stymied by recent Supreme Court decisions that rejected their preferred policies, have resurrected FDR's failed plan. The slogan is new: make the court reflect America. But let's be clear. What started as a rare historical misfire has become a rallying cry for those frustrated with constitutional limits on federal power. Why now? After decades of judicial activism, recent appointments have restored a textualist or originalist majority. That means the law is interpreted as written, not as some politicians wish it were. Landmark cases on religious liberty, the Second Amendment, and limits to federal agencies have dealt serious blows to those hoping to remake America through the courts. For some, packing the court is the shortcut to undo those defeats. There's an irony here. For years, Americans were told that conservatives were stacking the courts. But the real stacking would come from turning the Supreme Court into a revolving door, swelling its numbers whenever one side doesn't like the outcome. Imagine a future where every new Congress adds more justices, creating judicial chaos and destroying public faith in fair rulings. The court would become just another branch of Congress, with robes in place of suits. But let's dig deeper. There's a fundamental reason court packing is so attractive to some politicians. It bypasses the hard work of persuading voters and passing constitutional amendments. Why win the argument when you can just change the referees? This short-circuits democracy, concentrating more and more power in the hands of a few political actors. If you think this sounds dramatic, consider what American legal scholars on both sides have said. Even liberals like the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg warned against court packing. She called 9 a good number, pointing out that tampering with it would invite tit-for-tat escalations every political cycle, endangering our legal stability. Once you open Pandora's box, you can't close it. Now take a look at countries where judicial independence has been undermined. In countries like Venezuela and Hungary, autocratic leaders packed high courts, turning them into rubber stamps for their party's policies. The results? Runaway executive power, crackdowns on dissent, and the erosion of citizens' rights. Do we really want America to take even one step down that path? Supporters of packing the Supreme Court argue it's a reform. But isn't the real reform respecting the Constitution, our foundational rules of fairness? Imagine an NFL game where the losing team simply demands more referees until the calls favor their side. That's not fairness. That's an assault on the level playing field that makes American justice unique. It's vital to understand who is pushing this agenda. Major progressive advocacy groups, funded by deep-pocketed donors, have spent millions pressuring politicians to fix the court. The rhetoric is apocalyptic. They warn of democracy dying if their fixes aren't adopted. Yet stripping the court of legitimacy would actually hand more power to whichever party currently holds Congress and the presidency, a recipe for tyranny by the majority. Here's a twist. Average Americans, regardless of political party, overwhelmingly oppose court packing when it's explained. Poll after poll shows that the public understands instinctively tampering with the court is a line too far. Even as politicians posture, citizens want stability and impartiality, not more partisanship in the judiciary. So why won't politicians listen? The answer lies in raw political opportunity. Some activists believe the short-term gains, policy victories on abortion, gun rights, healthcare, are worth it, even if the long-term costs are catastrophic. In other words, they're gambling with the very structure of American democracy to get what they want today. But what about claims that the current Supreme Court is illegitimate because past nominations were unfair? Let's separate fact from fiction. Every justice was nominated and confirmed by the constitutional process. The rules haven't changed in over a century. If one side promises to rewrite the rules every time they lose, then the court becomes a weapon of whoever holds power, not a bulwark of impartial law. And here's something the media rarely tells you. Changing the number of Supreme Court justices isn't some kind of baked-in right. It's a radical, disruptive act only attempted during moments of extreme political desperation. Ask yourself, why now? Is this really about justice or about grasping for power when the winds of public opinion haven't gone your way? Let's look at the real-world consequences. If court packing succeeds, what's to stop the other side from immediately cramming in justices when they're back in power? Before you know it, we have a 17-member, then a 27-member, and eventually a 49-member Supreme Court. The court, once the guardian of equal justice under law, becomes a legislative mini-Congress, a place for political payback and chaos, not justice. Time for another plot twist. Here's what many won't admit. The more the Supreme Court is seen as just another political branch, the easier it becomes for the public to tune out, stopping obeying rulings they disagree with. Respect for the rule of law collapses. The stability that holds society together erodes. The stakes, more than partisan wins and losses. This is about the future of our republic. But court packing isn't just a theoretical risk. Even the debate itself weakens the court's reputation. Just look at falling approval ratings. Each time a politician threatens to pack the court, it undermines confidence. The long-term risk, in America where no institution is above politics and no court ruling is safe from retaliation by the powerful. It's tempting, in our age of outrage, to see every loss at the Supreme Court as proof the system is rigged. But the founders built checks and balances for exactly this reason. So no branch could overpower the others, and so change would happen only through persuasion in the ballot box. Not by gaming the system. What's really at stake isn't just who gets the next seat on the bench. It's whether we're ruled by enduring principles or by politicians who change the rules when they can't win the argument. The real lesson of American history is that we don't always get our way, but we agree to play by the rules, trusting that the process matters more than any single outcome. So the next time you hear calls to pack the court, ask yourself, who really benefits? Is it the ordinary citizen or the political class grabbing for more unchecked power? Court packing isn't about reform. It's about reshaping the court to rubber stamp a political agenda. Our founders would have seen it for what it is, an existential threat to constitutional government. The Supreme Court is not there to please politicians. It's there to defend principle. Packing the court transforms it from independent guardian to a partisan instrument. Where does that road end? As history warns us, it doesn't end well. In the end, Americans of all stripes must resist the temptation to turn the Supreme Court into a political plaything. Our nation's future depends on institutions that can withstand political storms, stand up to power, and say no when politicians, of any party, go too far. That's our deep dive on why they really want to pack the Supreme Court. Because bending the rules is easier than winning the debate on the merits. But the unintended consequences are too severe, the risks too great, and the cost to our constitutional order too high. Now it's your turn. What do you think about the push to pack the Supreme Court? Should the size of the court ever change, or is it a dangerous road to go down? We want to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below. Let's keep the conversation going. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this analysis, hit like, subscribe, and tell us what other hot-button topics you want us to dive into next. Stay tuned, stay informed, and stay factual with Factual America.